Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope you can hear me.
We can.
Good, thank you. Excuse me if I'm going to ask a question here, which has been asked already, but I was at another hearing and just was able to join this more recently. I'm interested in getting a sense of why it is we're seeing so many coups, if you will. This is not the obviously the one and only. There seems to be a crescendo in the number of places where military action is replacing democratically elected leaders. That's obviously something which is very much not in the interest of the people of those nations, nor is it in the interest of global peace. One question is to either of the panelists, are Russia or China playing a role either in encouraging these actions, or are they playing a role in sustaining the military juntas or leaders after a coup occurs? What role are they playing with regards to these increasing number of coups that we're seeing, if any?
Senator, thank you for flagging this troubling issue, which concerns us all. It's clear that Russia is playing a negative role, particularly in the Sahel, but also in Sudan. They're exploiting fissures and tensions and insecurities for their own political and economic advantage. I think this issue could be helpfully discussed in another setting, but I do want to flag that they are a player of concern for us. I also wanted to more broadly address your question. I think we're seeing in some cases the economic impact of the COVID pandemic, which has really disrupted economic growth in countries that are already struggling and some of the poorest countries in the world. And we're also seeing fatigue by publics from poor governance, including corruption. As well as insecurity. So those are some of the factors that we're looking at as we try and assess the changing landscape in Africa and make sure we respond appropriately.
I'm wondering as well whether in Africa, but also in other parts of the world where we're seeing actions of this nature, whether we're able to provide to the newly formed democratic governments, and in some cases governments that have been there for a long period of time, some assessment of the risk of a coup occurring, and some actions to take to make it less likely that something of that nature will occur. And because of course we always have sanctions when bad things happen. Clearly, everybody would tell us that writing checks to these governments would help them out, but that's not something we can do indefinitely. And so I wonder, do we have an effective strategy to make it less likely that Russia or others that are playing a malevolent role would be less effective? Do we have a strategy to encourage and strengthen nations such that they can withstand the inevitable draw of authoritarianism when a newly elected government is put in place? And again, for you, Assistant Secretary, or your colleague.
Senator, you all helped us out by giving us the Global Fragility Act. And the administration is working carefully and quickly to try and mobilize those resources and to try and adopt that new format and new approach precisely to get at what you're discussing. So I'm hopeful that you'll see real action on the ground to implement the goals and ambitions laid out in the Global Fragility Act, which were designed precisely to address the concerns you've outlined.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I return the time to you.